roll call. 3 of us are here, and our other 2 members are Zooming, Fred Zog and Dick Rowan.
Joe, it's very difficult to hear you.
We can hear everybody else.
I can hardly hear anything.
And I don't have my mask on, Diane, either. I'm talking above it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to hear. I don't know where the microphone is, and I have my volume turned up to 100, so.
If I'm next to the microphone, Diane, can you hear me better?
Yes, that's,
Yep.
that's,
Okay. We're going to have to get the microphone in the center of this area.
Can't you move one of those waste containers and just set it on?
Yeah. It really can't.
So you can hear you real well.
Chair in the center.
Yeah, we don't have enough cord to do a whole lot.
Please, not over here. Oh, yeah.
All right. Camera might not be the best, but you'll be able to hear us hopefully a little bit better, huh?
Can you
Great.
hear me, Diane?
you're better, but not very clear.
That's as far as we can extend it.
You had the volume all the way up.
How about you, Dick? Can you hear?
I can hear.
Okay, I was more
Just a
worried
little-
about you than me.
All right, thank you.
Okay, our roll call is approved. We have to review and approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second it.
We have a first by Jim Nygaard and a second by Lee Muck to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right,
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of previous meeting. August 6th, 2020.
Make a motion to approve as printed.
Second.
We have a motion by Lee Muck and a second by Jim Nygaard. All in favor?
all
Aye.
right.
Motion carries. Public comment. We have people in our audience. I'd like you, if you want to speak, I want you to state your name before you do it. Somebody over here wants, does anybody here want to speak? Yes. Okay. Richard Van Handel. Richard Fernando. Van Handel. Van Handel. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay, I'm part of the Highway 10 project, and as of now, I've got some real concerns about the landscaping and stuff that's gonna take place. And also, I've been working with Casey for the retaining walls. Greenberg thinks they could do something like that this year yet. So I need to coordinate how we do this, and do I need to get another $300 permit to do this? Or why would you driveway, because I'm gonna have to redo my driveway if you don't redo the road. So all my pitches are wrong, everything's bad. The one end is way high, so now my driveway's gonna go way up and come back down. And I would really like to have the board come and take a look at the situation I have, because it should have never went down that way. Because we're not moving the guardrail, we're not widening the road until you get to mine and Tanya's property. And then all of a sudden it's real important to have this wide stretch. And I don't understand this to this day. And now I have to put a wall up so I don't have snow and cars running into my house out of my pocket, which I wouldn't have done if this wasn't the way it should have went down in the first place. So then I lost 2 great big trees. I was told by Casey they were my trees, those are county trees because they're already a property. But yet I took another tree down, it cost me $400 a couple of years ago, which would be your tree. I don't even see where the equity is here. I got $25 for the 2 trees that I couldn't have got compensated for. Neighbor gets $800 a tree, and they even leave one of the trees. I don't understand this whole process. Frustrated, and it's my tax money.
Any other comments about this?
And again, public comment is just the one way. Thank you for your comments. And if we want to discuss further, we can put it on next agenda. Thanks.
State your name.
Barbara Van Handel. This, my comment is this whole process has been very hard to sleep with. The amount of dust and dirt that has been, I mean, I have breathing problems to begin with. So we have filters in the living room and my bedroom. Just to, normally we've had to change all these filters with dust and dirt from this. If I get through this project and I'm alive, I'll be happy. Oxygen is really important to me, and it's been bad. And the thing is, there's no communication about when anything is going to get done. We were told last week that on Tuesday they were going to come and do the curb. Well, the crew shows up Monday, and I happen to be outside, and the head guy then said, well, are your cars in the garage? You're going to have to get them out. And that was the extent, not for how long they'd have to be out. Well, now our cars are sitting, well, mine's sitting at the dealers at Tanya's. And, Rick's is either at Tanya's or we put it in the park. We have nowhere to go. We don't even know how long our cars, we can't get into our garage. No communication as usual. It's been very, very frustrating.
I'm talking about whiskey and just I think I have a problem with Omni Engineering, and I'd like to show you a couple pictures of why. Sorry, my printer. Lovely printers and ink. Some are black and white, some are color. What you're looking at there is going east from my area. You'll see the first curbing is their property, and as you look east, you'll see where that truck is. That their next neighbors. What's that called? Gutter? What is that? What is it? Gutter? Curb and gutter. It swings out. Apparently, the road is swinging out, and I would question why the engineering firm would do that. It's just kind of goofy. It's supposed to be originally it was said a straight run out. But if you're going to do a road, it'd be nice if you just get a straight run and put some of those curbs in. In that particular area, there is no reason why that thing had to swing that far that I'm aware of. But I'm not an engineer, but if you look at that, you go, what in the world are you swinging that curb way out into the road like that? So that's my thing with Omni Engineering. And I think, if you recall, last time I was here, I talked about the springs that are on that road. I think Casey can talk about the problems with the springs on that road. They are filling and filling and filling and more trucks and more. What's that big stone called, Casey? The big stuff?
Breaker rack.
Yeah. Lots of that is getting put in because of those springs that I had talked to about. And I said it's going to be Mother Nature's nightmare, and it is. If you want to go look at that, it's awful. Plus, I don't know how much more that costs, but you had a geologist, I think, looking at this too. Who was working with Omni to do this project because we knew there were spring problems, but we looked at that to see how bad it was going to be.
ECS.
Okay, well, ECS needs to be, because I think it's a bigger problem than anybody ever thought, and it's going to continue. This land is not nice with Mother Nature and water. So again, I push back to Omni and who decided some of this designs. And the other thing is, and probably Casey, if I can find you, I know you're so busy, but there's a driveway up to the utility box on my pasture, but they never put an access for me into the pasture. No, before I could just right to the road and get in and out with equipment. Now I can't, so we need a culvert and a driveway. And why is there a driveway up to a utility box?
So that the utility box didn't sit down in the bottom of the ditch, they needed to keep it a little higher. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to come through with snow plows and we're going to cover that utility box full of snow. So they kept it up higher. And the utility company said that the reason they needed to put a culvert pipe in front of it is because if they needed to access that utility box, they couldn't do it just from going through the ditch to get to it. So to make it easier on the utility company, they asked if we would put a culvert pipe in front of it.
So then they had the same problem I have. I now can't get into my field because, if I can't, it's too deep to bring a tractor and spreader or anything up in there. So, am I going to get that? And I guess not, because I think all the, whatever you call that stuff you put on the ground for grass, there's no way for me to get into that field other than come out of my house property.
Yeah, wherever you were accessing before, we were required to get you access before, so we'll look at the existing driveway permit before, or the driveway access before the project, and then try to get you access into your horse pasture, right?
Yeah, that's that one east of the house.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
wherever,
used to be, it was, just drive right in.
So I think we'll just make an agenda item for next
Okay,
time
good.
for
Thank you.
a discussion about the CTH project.
yeah, if there was an existing access and we did not put it in, we should be putting it in without even taking it to an agenda item.
But if there's,
It sounds like some of the issues you might be able to resolve, Casey, with this particular landowner, but right, the back and forth is not appropriate for public comment, so Sue's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything over here? Okay, moving forward.
All right, moving forward.
Approve payment vouchers.
To review and approve the payment vouchers, I've got one payment batch register for this time. We'll start off with the first one being accurate alignment frame for $192. That got charged back to the truck, $11.96. Our next one is from AECom Technical Services. That was a bill for $5,271.61. That was for the oversight of the painting of the County Highway X Bridge near New London. Airgas USA had an invoice for $11,067.64. That got charged to shop supplies. I'm gonna skip the ones unless they're $1,000 or more, like normal. American Asphalt of Wisconsin had a bill for $138,977.73. That got charged to our bituminous account. That then we paved on County Highway K, south of Wapaka down to the Washera County line. And then some pavement went for the town of St. Lawrence on, was it North Rail Road? And a little bit of paving took place in the town of Union. Power Built Tire had an invoice for $8,533.36 charged to our stock account for 4 drive tires on Unit 57. Rock White Company had a bill for $3,914.50. That was for blocks sealant at our Helvetia shop, so that Helvetia shop, we had some interior leaking in the walls, and they claimed that the blocks needed to be sealed, and so our crews are performing that work with that sealant from Brock White. Chem Search had a bill for $3,477.06 charged for fuel handling or fuel treatment services. Diesel Machine Service had an invoice for $1,149.81 charged to our stock account. Deltmeyer Sales had an invoice for $3,849 charged to our bituminous account. Energy Solution Partners sold us diesel fuel here in our Wapaka shop for $11,982.87 charged to our stock account out of Wapaka. Eugene and Joy Griffin were compensated for sand sales for July, so that was for $2,160. Fabit Cat had an invoice for $47,267.38. That got split. A lot was for rental equipment. Some of it went to Unit 1018. Some was for Unit 753, 752, 112. One thing I wanted to point out on is the cost for rental equipment in the month of July for our bulldozer, excavator, and off-road trucks, all charged to Highway N. Just rental equipment for that month was $39,243. So it all gets charged to a project which has a budget to cover the expense. A lot of the reason why we're looking at acquiring our own instead of always renting. So Fastenal Company had an invoice for $4,213.17. Gets split amongst a lot of our accounts. A lot of it went to vending supplies in Wapaka. Arrow Oil Corp had a sale for us for $11,162.39, charged for diesel fuel at our Helvetia shop. Go Green Recycling had an invoice for $2,849.47. Some of it was for purchasing 3/4 inch gravel. And then the rest went to the town of Caledonia, town of Waiwega, and a little bit on County Trunk Highway F for chip sealing. They're going towards Gill's Landing. Highway landscapers installed the silt fence on County Highway N. That was $18,477.80. That satisfies our DNR erosion control requirements. JMAR had an invoice for $1,653.50 charged to our stock account for herbicide. Lakeland Automotive had an invoice for $3,320.28, split amongst multiple accounts, including some sheriff's department squads that we service. MCC sold us a bunch of gravel. Some was utilized for $18,062.34. It was charged then to the town of Wyoming, Matson, Dayton, Iola, some for County Trunk Highway N, our County Highway D project for the chips that we chip sealed up there north of Clintonville. And then some also went to Highway F and then double B where we chip sealed. McMahon Associates had an invoice for $1,148 on the O'Brien site project. Mid-States Equipment had an invoice for $1,709.43. It's charged to our stock account for a hose. Sounds expensive for a hose, but I believe that was for a fire hose for filling our water truck. Miller Bradford and Reedsburg invoice for $2,624.83 charged to our stock account, unit 127T. Northeast Asphalt had a bill for $15,214.98. That was a lot of it was for pulverizing the old blacktop. That got charged to our County Highway K project and then work we performed in the town of St. Lawrence, town of Union, and town of Matson. Oil Equipment Company had a bill for $1,048.20 charged to Unit 22 and 20. Pine River Group had an invoice for $4,883.68 charged to our stock account for purchasing replaceable signposts and guardrail posts. Pumps Tire Service had an invoice for $2,604.21 charged to our stock account, and then some to units 1172 and 206T. Scafidi Motors had an invoice for $1,675.86 charged to unit 1192. Strand Associates had an invoice for $5,410. They're overseeing the double B bridge that's getting replaced in the year 2022. So they're the engineering firm for that. And then they have costs associated now with design and then developing the right-of-way plat for the footprint that that bridge is going to have on the surrounding landowners. Not much, but it's enough that it has to be a filed right-of-way plat for TLEs. We aren't acquiring a whole lot. Superior Chemical Corporation had an invoice for $1,672.13. Got charged to our buildings and grounds account for hand sanitizer, disinfectants. UniFirst Corporation supply us uniforms and mats at all of our shops for $1,257.98. Gets charged as I believe, fringe benefits to our mechanics mostly. Opaka Water Utility had an invoice for $1,052.46 charged to our buildings and grounds account for our water and sewer fees. Wisconsin Energies had an invoice for $4,480.54, which then gets charged back to our marketing and signing account, our buildings and grounds account, and then some of it got charged to our state routine maintenance account. Weiser Concrete sent us their invoice for the town of Wyoming's box culvert for $34,000. that got charged to Margie. Wisconsin Kenworth had an invoice for $1,361.09. That was charged back to units 1166 and unit 66. Zep Manufacturing had an invoice for $4,591.35, charged to our buildings and grounds account and our small tools account. So that concludes everything that's $1,000 or more. The total amount for this payment batch register was $395,071.23.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
Second.
Got a motion by Lee Mock, second by Tim Haggard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, agenda item number 2 is to review and discuss the Town of Wyoming 50/50 bridge aid for Spalding Road.
You don't have to
So
say. Okay. Just watching.
the Spalding Road project was not an agenda item in the past, so we decided to bring it up as a recordable agenda item here at Highway Committee. So what I wanted to do is talk about the project, where we stand today. I talked a little bit offline with Supervisor McClone on the project, and what had occurred on that project, let me take this off, was there was identification that the structure was narrow and the north side of it was starting to decay. The concrete was rotting away. And so with the Town of Wyoming and myself, we probably met 2 or 3 times prior to the project at the Town of Wyoming's monthly meeting, and we came up with cost estimate, went back and forth on work that I thought our crews could self-perform without increasing the cost of the project. And then we decided to move forward with the project. So the overall project was anticipated to cost about $65,000 overall. $34,000 of that was going to be the cost of the box structure itself. The rest of the costs were anticipated to be our crew's labor, our crew's equipment, in materials. And so the project unfolded this spring. We had to bid out services to Pfeiffer. We bid that out. Pfeiffer was the only contractor that had crane services. We elected to utilize them. They had a respectable bid amount. And so I said to my staff and crews, before we go and replace this project, we also have 2 of them going on here on County Highway O, the south box culvert and the north box culvert. So moving into this spring, we had a lot of in-stream trout restrictions where we couldn't start right away. But as soon as May 15th came along, our department was going to start attacking these box culvert streams because the DNR was allowing us to disturb the stream and put in diversion channels. So we started on the County Highway O south box culvert. It went relatively good until we got rain. It just kept raining. And that was in the end of May, early June. So it kind of slowed us down a little bit in that aspect on when we're going to get to this Town of Wyoming project. So we got done with O South. We did O North by the Triple O Supper Club. And then we moved over to the Town of Wyoming and we started excavating for the new box culvert to get placed. Which included hammering apart the old concrete structure. Everything was going smooth. We got one rainstorm in there that was pretty high. So we just said, you know, our previous experience on O and double O, or on the O projects is instead of using the county's sheet piling, let's have Pfeiffer come in and drive sheet piling. So on the estimate for this Town of Wyoming project, I did not include that in the estimate, but when the project's going on and the water is high, I made the decision, let's go ahead and drive sheet piling for ease of construction for our crews. So, that cost for sheet piling on that project for Wyoming ended up being $12,500. And that's a small part of it. And I didn't include it in the initial estimate. And so we got the invoice for the sheet piling from Pfeiffer, and I kind of scratched my head and I'm like, well, we didn't include that in the estimate. I didn't think we needed it. We needed it. We used it anyway. That $12,500, I charged that amount to our county sections. I didn't charge that cheap piling for Wyoming. Kept it off the invoice because I knew there was other extra costs that were coming in. And so our crews started excavating below the riverbed. They're digging out the sand. Everything's wet, of course, because we're 5 feet below the river bottom. And our surveyor is confident. He's there with the construction crew that everything's good. One of the benchmarks gets whacked. The benchmark got hit by our construction crew. So my surveyor, Kyle, he's like, this ain't good. I better go and protect the other one. So he goes and puts X survey lap up against that other benchmark, writes the elevation next to it. No one's going to hit it, right? So he uses that benchmark to lay out the new box culvert. What ends up happening is that one benchmark over here that got hit, Kyle took the elevation from this benchmark and he put it on the one that we used to lay out the structure. What that was a difference in elevation of 0.8 of a foot. So you're looking at about 9 inches. It's a 9-inch difference in elevation. The box culvert was getting installed. The crews are down in the hole. The mud's coming in, and the crane is ready to set the structure. He puts it in the hole that was excavated for it. Kyle down in the hole shoots the elevation, thinking that the benchmark is correct up on top, and it says that it's 0.2 of a foot low. Construction foreman, engineer down in the field at that time say, you know what? We'll be able to deal with 0.2. Structure gets built, everything works fine. Our crews do a phenomenal job. They backfill it, open up the stream by removing the sheet piling, taking away the diversion channel. Something don't look right. Margie's out there that day. Bert Brady's out there that day. Something don't look right. I look at it like 2 days later, hoping that everything's right. It don't look right. So I'm texting with Margie. I'm like, I am going to start communicating through your clerk so everything's recorded at this point. And then I said to Kyle, I'm like, what the heck went on? Why are we off? And it don't look right. You're saying the elevation's right. It don't look like that's. He's like, I triple checked it when we were setting it. Well, to find out what he did triple check was 0.8 of a foot off on top, 0.2 of a foot down in the hole is off. That puts the structure off 1 foot in elevation. Easy. I mean, it could happen to any one of us. But at that point, they were all confident. So when you look at the structure today, right now, I don't know if I don't think I have a photo of it to share. Sue?
I'm sorry, no, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
The water elevation, since we installed it, is about 7 inches. Here's the flow line, and here's the inside top of the box culvert. There's about 7 inches of clearance. It hasn't backed up the stream. It hasn't created a backup floodplain issue, but it could. I mean, there's that possibility during the spring thaw, heavy rains. It could back up into the neighbor's property. So now here I am thinking from in an office setting, what can we do to mitigate, to make this right? And we ended up losing 1 foot of clearance, and that box structure is 12 feet wide. So engineering wise, we lost 12 square feet of open end area for water to pass through, 12 times 1. What can we do to supplement that loss of 12 square feet of open end area for potential high water, which will occur at some point, to go through and pass through, is to install a concrete box or a concrete culvert next to this box structure. So when the water elevations get high enough, they don't hit the head wall. They start passing through this concrete culvert alongside of the box culvert, which is at the wrong elevation. And so my side conversation with Supervisor McClone is, I should have this conversation with the town of Wyoming. He's like, let's do it. So then, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I went to the town meeting with Wyoming, and I explained the whole process. I said, things didn't turn out the way they were supposed to. We're a foot off in elevation. And to put in this concrete culvert is about $15,000 on our dime. And Joe and I are like, you know what? Reset the structure. Let's just do it right. And so with that is going to come the costs of our department remobilizing, picking the box culvert up out of the hole, increasing the height of the elevation a foot, which we aren't going to go through a lot of the headaches that we would have gone through initially because all the mud is there and the base is there. We'd have to have a crane come in, remobilize it, pick the structure out, build it up a foot, put the structure back in and backfill it. And that would satisfy that 12 square feet of open area. But it comes with a cost to our department. It's not Wyoming's fault. It's not anyone else's fault besides that one instance when the surveyor transposed a number. That conversation's got to take place. But I guess what I'm asking the highway committee for is the increase in costs above and beyond what I proposed to the town of Wyoming be covered by the highway department's budget. That's something that we have experienced once before here, and it had to do with a paving project where they claimed that the asphalt pavement didn't receive proper compaction. I don't believe it, but that's what it got pointed back to. And so our department went back and redid the work, and ever since then that road is fine and really no one asked questions after it. It's just it's an expensive error on behalf of the upper management. It's definitely a learning curve for all of us on transposing an elevation, which can happen so quick. So what I'm looking at from my point of view was the additional costs for the project are right now pushing $108,000. It used to be $64,000. What I would like to do is take a portion of that and contact the town of Wyoming and say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make it right. We're going to not put in a cross culvert pipe. Instead, we're going to reset the box structure. But then I've got all of my equipment right now tied up on County Highway N. That's my one construction crew. We're big enough equipment to do this project. So I don't feel comfortable pulling off Highway N to go do the town of Wyoming's box culvert in the middle of the N project because you can't be in two places at one time. And so I asked the DNR, what are my in-stream trout restriction disturbances in the fall? And they said, once September 15th hits, you're not allowed to enter that stream anymore because now the trout are spawning. They're going through their season where you shouldn't be doing anything. And I said, what about the winter? Can we do this project during the winter? And knowing that we need Pfeiffer's crane, they're tied up on bridge projects. I left a voicemail and I didn't receive a call back from Scott Westenberger on the availability of their crane in our department. Then off of N, now able to go back to I would call it, what do you call it, warranty work job. Can we go back in there during the winter? And the fishery and hatchery biologist for the streams that represents in-stream disturbances doesn't see a huge problem with that as long as we send the river around safely for clean water and we just don't rip it out and then try to reset it while the stream's flowing through there. I'm still waiting on that response on permission from the DNR on making it a winter project because I don't think I can fit it in between today and September 15th with other jobs. That's I want to reset the structure, but I guess I think I also want to resubmit for the petition of County Bridge Aid because half of this project is coming out of our County Bridge Aid budget, or we have a fund for these types of projects. The town of Wyoming solicited for half of their $68,000, and so $34,000 that they have to pay for it all up front. And once they pay for the project all up front, then they've taken out a loan to cover their $34,000, and they can't exceed it. I mean, I'm just putting that out there. I've been to many of their meetings and listened to the discussions on $50 hall rentals, you know, this is a big decision to make, and we would absorb a lot of the cost. But I would like for also some of them costs for us to re-petition for county bridge aid to help cover some of this. So I'm not taking it all out of our road maintenance, county road maintenance budget, which is right now as well, because we had a pretty mild snow plowing spring. So I got to work those numbers. I got to get permission back from DNR on what, if we can work during the winter, and if we can, then I contact the crane company and say, the time frame I need you is winter. Are you able to perform work for us this winter? And if so, what does it cost? If they say no, you can't be in the winter for resetting the structure, then I have to wait till after May 15th next year, which leaves the town of Wyoming the vulnerability of water backing up during the spring thaw in the spring of 2021, because right now there's only this much of a pass. So I put in a temporary culvert in the meantime until we actually reset that structure. A lot of discussion yet, and it just doesn't, I can't do it like, I can't make the decision like that, because a lot of it isn't just me. We are, and I guess that's kind of what the agenda item was to review and discuss. And I gotta put some numbers together and look at where the county bridge aid petition is. Ultimately, the town of Wyoming wants to stay at what was proposed to them. And you as a highway committee, I haven't briefed this to yet. We just got the $34,000 box culvert cost sent to us last week, I think it was, and that's the exact same cost as what we bid out in the spring. So Wyoming is well aware of that $1,000 box culvert. So discussion on that, if we need to have it, or you guys concerned on?
Do you have any other crane projects for Pfeiffer during the winter that, once you got them out, that you could get going on something else?
I haven't.
No, okay.
No.
We have to make it right, that's it.
Yep.
But it is, it is.
It is what it is. The DNR and our floodplain shoreland zoning department are saying fix it. They don't care about the town of Wyoming's bill. They don't care about the highway department's bill. They care about water being backed up potentially in the neighbors to the north, and then flooding their woods out and then killing their trees, which that's why floodplain permits and all that zoning stuff is in place, is to protect that. So it's a big topic, yet it's just a culvert replacement.
Let's take a wait worst case scenario. Let's say the DNR says you can't do it in the winter and you gotta wait till next summer.
My preference is we need to put in some type of culvert pipe to take missing 12 square feet of open end area. We need to put in something.
I know by when. That's my question. So let's say you can't, let's say the DNR says you can't go in there in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
And I know you can't get off the end project right now.
Yeah.
What would happen if it wasn't done till next summer because of regulations? It's not because we don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. I would have to go in there with our crews, and I'd like to put in like a metal culvert pipe instead of a nice concrete one.
Just for overflow.
Just for overflow.
Okay.
Backup prevention. But then it leaves the town of Wyoming a gravel section per year. Gravel per year isn't bad because you get settling, but we already know if this isn't going to settle, we're ripping it out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're going to make it right, but we're going to follow the law too.
My question.
Yeah, this is on this agenda item.
My question is that the only crane company you can use?
We had, because our expenses for this project utilizing Pfeiffer were excuse me, looking at the journal entry for Pfeiffer on our invoice right now. Pfeiffer's invoice for this project was $13,125. Of that, $12,250 I absorbed for sheet piling on our county maintenance already. And so when we competitively bid out crane services in the end of January, early February, They were the only one that bid. Maybe some crane companies didn't know that that was even an option for them to bid, so we can reach out to more crane companies. But we need something that can pick a 24,000 pound structure in and out. So I'm looking at an 80-ton crane like Pfeiffer's had. The town chairman did give me some options on different ideas, but we're going to need a large crane to do this.
When you came back to the town and said about the crane, the additional cost, we did reach out to some other companies.
Yeah.
I went to American Asphalt, Clearly, and different, and there's more companies out there, and they didn't know, like you said, they didn't know to bid, but perhaps, there is another company that, and when I had just given them an overview of it, they were looking for a crane and so forth, for this amount that they have to, I'm not an expert on this, so bear with me, but they have to, the size of the crane they needed for this project, and they said that they'll have that, and it'll be available, but again, it's, to go out and reach and contact them, there probably would be another company that could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just need, and one thing I need to do is I know that I can get, sometimes I know I can get cheaper prices when they're not building bridges, and that's typically where cranes are tied up. So that's kind of why I'm trying to steer more towards the winter season, right?
Okay. And another question would be, if this temporary culvert goes in, who's paying it now? How, the payment,
Yeah.
because,
On a tip,
paying for something that, that's not done.
correct, yeah. So I think that I've told our staff to hold the invoice for this project. Typically it comes in, and I've told them that don't send anything to Wyoming until we figure all these pricings out. The overall cost, which includes asphalt paving next year, and I can't pave that till I know that it's compacted and it's settled, and we aren't going to get a bump in the road from paving. And so I really would like to hold off on any paving until next year. So for me to bill you, I got to say, hold off. We'll hold the bill until the project's done, right, Chris?
Would that affect
But
any of the share, of the cost share program?
I wouldn't think so, no, because the 50 bridge aid cost share pool doesn't expire at the end of the year. If it doesn't get used, it grows and grows and grows to the point where we have right now projects that are being petitioned for our bridge projects 2-3 years from now. So it's always there in the bridge aid.
That money is the county's money.
It's the county.
So Margie, that money will be available.
It's the county's money to redistribute.
Right.
But how this 50-50 bridge aid project pool of money is created is every year the counties, the towns and municipalities pay into it, and we collect $54,000 a year, or our finance director does, for this pool of money. So anything that has a diameter of 36 inches in diameter or larger can be petitioned for assistance out of this pool. When I first started here, there was a lot of townships and municipalities that had petitioned for the money. Highway committee approved it, but they never did the project. And so we made the decision after 7 years, if you don't do the project, we're going to cut that so I can move forward with other petitions and free up a lot of future money. And it freed up quite a bit of stuff that was 12, 13, 14 years old. We were still holding it for a project, but it just never happened. So we reached out to each municipality and said, your 14-year-old project you petitioned for was approved. We're done holding on to the money. We're only going to hold it on for 7 years. This project is, in my opinion, good for 7 years. But I want to re-petition the costs to this pool of money to help fund not only our expenses, but some costs that are above the original $68,000 estimate. We had a little bit more with breaker rock than I had estimated. if I could send out the $34,000 invoice for paying for at least that box structure, that kind of would help, but it's nice just to keep it all together as one project. And our budget, I believe, can hold it for a year before we get it. But Town of Wyoming's now already asked to borrow the money, and so they got this money, and what do they do with it? You know, so that's their banking end of discussion. You know, that's on their end.
So you're saying we're not gonna build them until maybe after the first of the year?
I don't want to bill them a penny until the project's done, in my opinion.
Okay, all right, so then they don't have to borrow the money until we invoice them, you're saying?
And
I guess that's what Margie wants to know, right?
yeah, and I have billed them for the upfront survey, for the upfront initial topography. They have received some invoices for this project, but that was more for engineering and design and getting it ready to go. And that was all done between my engineer and myself. We designed it.
So you understand that, right?
Is there any way it's been submitted? Hold on, can it be resubmitted at a different price that would help you out at all, so that if we had a bigger bill and then we had a bigger 50/50, would any, you know, we're trying to work with you too.
Yeah.
Anyway, this can be resubmitted,
Well,
so.
yeah, what happened is, in my opinion, and we're talking finances here, is when I had originally put the estimate together, I put in there for sheet piling, and that drove the cost up to 78,000 or something. And then I looked at it again, and then the town chairman and I went back and forth and said, oh, we can do that without sheet piling. And so if I could move back to that original estimate of 78,000, I think we would cover the rest of the cost. But I'd like to repetition that through the bridge aid. There's a lot of unknowns yet this time. We got to bid crane services back out.
I just say we do, like Joe says, we just do it right.
Yeah.
You're talking a $5 million budget here, and that $10,000 or $12,000 that we're gonna spend additionally, let's do it right and be responsible for our work.
That's right.
So,
I feel that, but you're probably more aware of a couple of things that's happened since you've been here, and I got a hunch those things happened before you were here also, and we never heard of them. It's my personal opinion.
so we gotta do it right.
We'll make it right.
Thank you.
Keep moving forward, Casey, to review and discuss phase one space needs study for satellite shops.
Okay. So this agenda item is to review and discuss the new London shop and the Larrabee shops conditions and space needs. And so what I proposed to the highway committee a couple months ago was the Larrabee shops, the size of it. Right now, we store a lot of equipment in all of our shops during the winter, and in both Larrabee and New London, as we were aware of Wapaka, were undersized. So I started doing some research, and our Larrabee shop right now is in need of a $35,000 estimated roof. Right now, the well right now is in need of replacement, and our trucks aren't fitting in it. And so one thing we need to do is just take an evaluation of, all right, in a perfect world, this is what we need versus what we want. A space needs study is a rather inexpensive way to satisfy that. And typically it's done with an architect. He looks at the size of your equipment. He looks at your 80-year projection. He looks at where you're going to be as a department. He looks at turning radiuses. He looks at the size of what you got versus what ideally you would need. And the Larrabee shop in particular, we've all known, was built in 1960. There's holes in the sides of the shed. The insulation's coming through. There's holes in the roof. We did do some minor fixes on that, but when we did the minor fixes on the Larrabee shop, there used to be, I think our operation, or Mark Korth told me that we have 24 skylights that were in the Larrabee shop, or maybe it was like 23 skylights. Well, when we went up to do them fixes in the roof, the guys walking up there started walking over like spongy spots, and they're like, oh boy, what are these spongy spots? They peeled one of them open, and it was also a leak, and here it is. Prior to Mark Korth working for it here, the highway department covered all of them skylights and then just put an insulation and a rubber roof over them. And that's what we're starting to see leak from that 1960 shop. And so we need to evaluate where we sit on doing major repairs versus minor repairs versus roof repairs. And that all is conducted through a space needs study. And I would like to share an email that I had with an architect, which was great because they performed a good space needs study here, and it costed $7,500 to do the space needs study for this shop. It also had some attachments in that they might get the overall $1 million design for it, but at this point, I just want to look at just the space needs study at New London and Larrabee, contact some architects, have them competitively bid on performing that service, just to give us a scoping of what may be a potential project 10 years from now. In a perfect world, I think 10 years from now, I would like to see the Larrabee shop really revamped. I have to forecast that. That's a decade out, but it sneaks up so quick. And then also look at the New London shop on putting an extension on it, only because the trucks and graders they don't fit in there with the plow equipment on. And so both shops at one time, reaching out to Bray Architects and other interested architects to do a phase 1 space needs study, I think is something this department needs for them. And I like to put this out there, in 10 years from now, the Larrabee shop will be 70 years old. And so I got to start doing something today to plan for tomorrow. That's the discussion I have. It isn't that I want to build a new highway shop at all these places, but we got to watch out for the roof caving in. We got to watch out for, I took Supervisor McClone there one time, I think 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday. We went around and looked at the condition of it. What you could see right now is a lot of our single axle plow trucks staged in there. But during winter, when all of our quad axles and our tri-axles and our graders start getting the plow equipment mounted on it, the trucks start getting parked in the aisles, which we were seeing at our old Wapaka facility here. There's room for improvement for that satellite shop. There's no water, there's no sewer municipal services to the Larrabee shop. What you end up finding right now when we're producing brine, which is sucking the well water out of a sand point, we're running the well dry, so we're not able to keep up with producing salt brine, which is becoming a more and more popular thing. So looking at maybe being attached to the city of Clintonville, if we end up moving, I'm not scaring anyone, I hope, but if we end up moving, get somewhere where we're attaching ourselves to city water and city sewer, so we're not sitting out there solely independent with water supply, and then the DNR requirements of what we send for washing salt water trucks and asphalt trucks out at the end of the day, going back out into Mother Nature. That's a huge environmental discussion, which space needs studies tend to generate some costs for. This is what you may or may not need to satisfy the EPA and all them regulations. So I'm kind of putting this behind me, and I'm using my highway commissioner forethought to look at something 10 years from now for these.
I respect everything you said just now, but my personal opinion after coming from that transportation meeting is I'm not quite ready to lay that all out there, just because at that meeting they said that 36% of the households right now have one person less working when they've done the research. They also went on to say that 50% of the people either had their job reduced or lost. And I know we're sitting on 15 million people in this country that are employed right now. But I totally agree with what he's saying. I'm not quite sure this is a time to lay this out much yet. even though you gotta do your research on it. I don't know what you guys feel. That's my opinion.
Well, I just saw something the other day too about, with the COVID situation, there's a significant number of young families that had been both parents working, now deciding that one of them is just gonna give up their job and stay home with kids. So whether they lost the job or they're giving up their job, the daycare situation and the school situation is dictating some of this too. So yeah, there's gonna be less money flowing in to state governments from withholding and not as much driving, so less gasoline tax coming in. Right.
Our problem isn't gonna go away.
No,
You know, that's what we have here.
Casey, what is the estimated cost of the space needs study?
$7,500 is what it costs for this one, so $7,000.
and that study that'll be good for a long time. It's not gonna have an expiration date of 6 months or 2 years from now. Whether it can sit on the shelf till we're ready for it, as far as that goes, correct?
Correct, yeah. And they account for inflation and the build year that it takes place, and that's a lot more than I can do. That's why I'm looking at getting some help. I'm projecting something out. But in the meantime, my roof is shot at Larrabee, and I gotta make a decision on, do I wanna milk it for 10 years or do I wanna replace it? My well is not able to keep up with the supply. Do I want to replace it or do I want to milk it for 10 years? That's kind of the help I need.
Right. And if you get some independent outsider crunching numbers on this, then we've got a respectable opinion that we can use. Right.
I think it's a good investment for the future.
One of the things that also brought up this discussion is the Marion Wayside is closed. And so that land was vacant, attached to the city of Marion, right on US 45. That kind of started making me think, is now the time to even see if that acreage is large enough to look at an investment for a future highway shop.
Can you go back to the DOT and one more? And I know we contacted them once, but you think we should contact them again and see if there's any future there at all, or just leave it?
I can do that.
I think we should do it one more time.
Yeah.
Just throw it out there. Tell them we'll keep it a wayside for 10 years until.
The Marion Way, for everyone's knowledge, the Marion Wayside's been closed since 8 years, 8 years, somewhere in there. And
It's been that long?
It's been vacant for that long. In 2014, I believe they shut the doors on it. So 6 years.
It's hard to believe it's been that long. Okay.
Because what was happening is people were starting to use it as a hideout when I started here in 2016. And that's when they required us then to block the barricades off because people were sneaking in and out. And that's the same time that the Marion first responders use it as a helicopter landing zone. We're not able to use it anymore. So, for accidents and, transferring ambulance to the helicopter. So I don't know, it kind of all has to happen together. It's an investment we would make to find out, is that even enough acreage that we would need? Are we shopping in the right direction? Is the land we sit on the right area? Is the Marion sale barn that just closed its doors a better option? Then that's closed now, right? Unless someone else is buying it. I don't know. I just
brainstormed in my brain here, across the highway from the wayside. There's Welch's.
Yeah.
I don't know how financially they're doing, if they're gonna keep surviving, but the Welch's had quite a few acres there.
So
because that goes all the way to the Swamp Road on the backside, so there's quite a bit of land there. There'd be another option to
as these discussions progress, the next 10 years, I can say, I I need 11 acres. I need, according to my space needs, I need this much. I don't know what I need.
And when you say Welch's, Carly's is right there too, and, yeah.
Yeah,
They're Wheeler dealers.
yeah.
No.
Well, that whole corner belongs to Welch's there. That's gotta be 20 acres or better.
Yeah,
On the corner.
And-
And I know it's got water along the road there. I don't know. I thought Welch's put the sewer in, but I'm not sure.
But it's a nice, high, dry, well-drained,
yeah.
sandy
Yeah.
area, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm talking about just a satellite shop, not this.
No.
But I need some guidance.
But at some point, when you're dealing with old buildings, and it's like, well, are we throwing good money after bad after a while? We're putting up with something that's not doing the job, and we keep patching.
Look at how that building was built in the 60s compared to construction today. I mean, our shop out there.
We have little to no internet service. Doesn't mean that we can't fix that by hiring Frontier for $110,000 to run fiber optic to it. But
In 10 years, that's gonna all change big time.
so, yeah.
Well, the other thing with the internet is the county's looking at doing the small line of sight towers extending from Wapaka online. Hopefully we can make that work, but the more sites they have for those kind of towers, the better coverage they're gonna get. And the short towers are way cheaper than the tall ones.
Then we're putting a tower on the county shop property there at Laramie, aren't we? Or trying to.
Oh, yeah, Dave Keel and our economic development right now have taken it through multiple levels to get approval to put a tower on the Larrabee shop.
Yeah.
So whether or not that shop someday moves or stays in the same location, that tower project will still be there and it'll still be county owned, what's it, 5 acres?
It'll still be in the area.
It'll still be that, we'll still own that. I think maybe it's 8 acres. It's still owned by the county for a tower, but that's where our zoning department and that whole tower, the tower people have to look at our Larrabee property and see if that's an option. But the reason they're trying to go with all that technology is because people are living and working and schooling from home and they don't have the internet connection. And so I really praise them for that. We would not say, no, you don't have to put the tower here because we're moving. So this is just a review and discuss. I think it's good we did it.
Moving forward, discussion on 2021 capital improvement projects.
All right, so for our highway department, we went through projects multiple times and I projected what I would like to do for, I need to take this off. I can't breathe.
They're terrible.
And so what's going on is I submitted our 21 capital projects to our finance department. They're due by August 31st. Obviously, that department likes to see that well before that so they can start shooting information back to all the departments. So in front of you, you should see the year 2021. This should be this green sheet. You have that? I just want to go through it one more time with everyone because this is what we're doing next year. Or this is what I'm submitting to the special finance committee, which is going to take place, Joe, next week, Wednesday, I believe it is.
It got moved today.
It got moved. So
I don't have my calendar.
when I go and sit in front of the whole finance committee and say, these are the capital projects for the county highway department, what we're going to submit for is, the first one is County Highway B. That goes from, it's between Scandinavia and Iola. Highway B goes from 49 towards Ogdensburg, and we're going to stop right there by Draft Road. That project was applied for prior to me being a highway commissioner for state reimbursement, and it has a sunset date where it has to get built by June 30th of next year. And so that project has to happen next year for us to receive our compensation of $124,000. The second project I've got on there is County Highway D bridge decks. Right now, Bucky's Bridge, I call it in New London. It's the bridge right next to Bucky's restaurant. I would like to do a chip seal overlay on it like we did this year on the Pearl Street Bridge and the Shawano Street Bridge. That way all three of the county-owned bridges in New London are sealed. And I know that maybe, Fred, you've seen the Pearl Street and Shawano Street bridges, and I want to do that on Bucky's Bridge next, so.
Yeah, that Pearl Street Bridge really looks nice. Nice job.
The Bucky's Bridge is the same size as Shawano and Pearl Street together, so I'm anticipating it to be about a $70,000 job to chip seal that bridge. That way our crews don't have to seal the cracks and the potholes. It's covered by a big mat over the top of it.
Is that the same thing they did on the Oak Ridge Bridge?
That's what they're doing on all your state highways right now. The next one is County Highway G box culvert. The County Highway G box culvert sits just north of Highway B near Scandinavia. The railings are shot. Right now it's 2 culvert pipes that are sitting side by side. The concrete's starting to spald on it, and we need to have some money allotted for that project. When I put the words PE, that stands for professional engineering, that kind of covers shoreline zoning permits, DNR permits, all of the permits necessary. That would be surveyed and designed in-house with our staff, but I need to be able to charge our time to that project, so I'm allotting $10,000 for that, just in getting it set up for a replacement. I met with Contec, was that yesterday? Contec supplies metal arch pipes, and we looked at that as being an alternative there. So that was, I'm throwing all kinds of ideas out. The next project is County Highway I. In fact, the next 4 projects are County Highway I. So why do I have County Highway I as 4 separate projects? Is because a long time ago, I'm not going to say a long time ago, but 5-6 years ago, when we started projecting the replacement of Highway I, we were always going to do it in sections, and the whole section's, I think, 8.6 miles long, and we are unable to afford to do the last section of Highway I this year. So what I'm doing is I'm moving that paving project to next year, and that way when we sit down and we pave them other 3 projects, we can do 2020 at the same time. That way reduces mobilization. The crews can just do the whole 8.6 miles all in one crack, versus doing a little this year and a little next year. Just sit down and cover it in 1 year. So all 4 of them Highway I projects now would be next year. We would do nothing on Highway I this year.
So this fall is done.
We're done. We cannot afford to go back to Highway I this year. That would, I think it was 8.6 miles on paving on I next year. That also has a sunset date of June 30th of next year. So our paving crews have to have it paved, and then we have to have received the invoices from the paving company for buying the material. And then Sue and Jan compile in our office all the receipts, and then they send all of the hot mix asphalt purchase receipts to the state to receive everything by June 30th. So
it's June 30th to 21.
21, we have to have it done by. Which these types of projects are awesome for our department, because we can come out of the chutes in the spring and we can just start paving. We're not waiting for the construction crews to move through or a box culvert to move through. It can keep all my trucks and my paver going typically mid-May already. We can
Are
start
we
doing
gonna
some-
have our new paver by then? I forgot now. When did we?
if it gets passed to buy, if we can buy it. So
I forgot if we passed it or not. Okay.
So a reflection on what we're proposing for 2021. Can you see this bottom where it says $4.2 million for net county costs? But up in the left-hand corner, it says this is our logos budget. I projected for us to spend 4.8 million, but I took 600,000 of it out so that we could reallocate those dollars for buying a paver. Paver right now is projected to be about $495,000, $500,000. But yeah, that paver 1993, we're having a hard time finding parts and replacement for it. We're seeing it fall apart fast. And so I want to have a different paver in here next year. So I cut my capital road projects so that I could do more with equipment purchasing next year. After County Highway I, I've got professional engineering for County Highway old box culverts. Again, that's all work that Kyle and I would be able to charge our time to. Otherwise, what Kyle and I would do is charge our time to administration. And administration isn't an approved budget item. It's cost pooling it and recovering them costs the next year, which we all know we've tacked on the 2% invoice to recover our admin costs. But now that I'm allocating projects for us to charge time to, it's not a lot, but yet it makes a big difference on invoices to town. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with that. And them old box culverts, one of them is right near Mountain Lake Road, and the other box culvert is located kind of in between Island Road and the O Supper Club. There's a stream crossing there. Both of them were heavy box or heavy concrete bridges. They didn't satisfy the requirement of being a bridge because they weren't 20 feet wide. So the state doesn't give us the 80-20 cost share with it. At some point, they got widened when the road got widened. So they ended up putting additions on each side with concrete cement slabs. Them cement slabs are sitting nice and straight, but that bridge deck in between it is bowing. Both of them are bowing. And them are both pavement replacement projects coming up in this 5-year capital plan, and I want to replace them box culverts, kind of like we did by the O Supper Club a year ahead of time. But I need to design them. So the next one is County Highway O from Double O to Island Road. The letter C represents culverts and construction. Highway O from Double O to Island Road is 2.3 miles. I allotted $50,000 in there. Being familiar with it, or if you're familiar with it, basically take the O Supper Club and start heading towards Clintonville. And you're gonna find that that's one of the worst roads right now in the county. I want to invest money next year in replacing the cross culvert pipes under the road and redoing the ditches so that that's all done, so that when we replace the pavement, we don't have to do that. The next one, I've got replacing County Highway O from State Highway 22 to the O Supper Club. That's been a construction project in the works now going on 3 years to include design, right-of-way, rebuild. That again is going to be a 24-foot wide road like N is, and it's going to be reconstructed. I don't think it needs a whole lot of earthwork like N did as far as reestablishing the ditches and just soft spots. Like right now on N, when we're digging out the road core going by Riskies and that way, we're finding that the road was built on top of boulders and topsoil. And that's part of the reason that we're ripping that stuff out and then putting sand in there so that it helps hold the pavement. But I don't think that section from O is that bad. So I'm thinking we may have some cost savings next year in construction on that 1.8 miles going from 22 to the O Supper Club. And then the last project that I have in here is County Highway Q. This is a project that we were looking at doing a couple of years ago. It got moved. We definitely talked about it. It's our reclaim, shape, and pave project. It does have LRIP sunset date, but not until the year 2025. But I believe that's a project that the road is failing faster than what we can maintain it at with patching and potholes and wedging. That one would be pulverized and repaved in kind. Right now it's a 20.5-foot wide road. I want to pulverize and pave it and put it a 22-foot wide road. The 22-foot wide road then would satisfy the state, and then they'll give us money towards it. If I didn't go at least 22 feet wide, they would say we're not investing in roads that don't meet today's traffic widths or design standards. So that one would be 22 feet wide. So the overall estimated project cost for 2021 would be $4.8 million. Of that, we would be reimbursed $555,000. That gives us the net count that would come out of Heidi's budget of $4,292,258. It also is a happy balance. I'm keeping my construction crews constructively working during the summer. My paving crews would be busy. We still depend on the town work, but it's a balance. You don't want to do too much of the other, because then the trucks can't roll all year if all you're doing is paving. If all we did was paving, we would be done working the 1st of August. And then I sit with my staff and our budget spent because pavement costs so much. So that's 2021. Our agenda item today was to review and approve 2021? So I need the highway committee to,
We're just discussing the capital.
Discussion,
improvement ones to begin with.
221 capital improvement.
and then the one following it is to read and
Before we go to that one, I want to say a few words about when you're talking your capital improvement projects. Mike Wendt called me this morning, and it was because I made some comments which Casey heard to Rebecca Burkholz in the meeting on Tuesday.
Rebecca Birdholt is the Wisconsin Department of Transportation administrative person that supports the Secretary of Transportation. So right there,
Right,
left seat, right seat.
and it was a meeting Zoom, and so they had her on the telephone because there was no communication talking like we are to our people because the technology wasn't there. Anyway, so he'd have to, I give him a question, he'd repeat it. My question was very lengthy because I wanted to talk about Marion, I wanted to talk about why we got 110. Anyway, she took what she had and she said, I'll get back to you. And I was surprised, you heard that.
Yeah, you were talking to a big screen.
And because she could hardly hear what I was saying, because it was going through the phone. And, I just thought, when I got home, should I write her a letter to emphasize what I did? And I hadn't done that yet. Well, this morning I was jotting a few notes to myself to tell you about what went on down there. And I get this call from Mike Wendt. And the biggest thing, before I get into Mike Wendt's thing, is the gross domestic product during quarter one was down 5%. The gross domestic product during quarter two this year was down 30%. We're covered with money pretty much till 2021, and they don't know where the money's going to come in the future because 80% of our money comes from the federal government. They're afraid what's going to happen in 2021 could be atrocious because nobody's driving. You see what's happened to oil and all that stuff. Well, anyway, back to the Mike Wendt call. He said Rebecca Burkholz got to him to look at 110 and what my feelings were. And of course, then I got to unload everything about the Marion Hill and the Amish over that hill. You know how bad it is. It's all gravel. And there was a UPS truck when I went through there one day unloading stuff for the Amish. You can't believe how much they were putting in the yard. If somebody that came over the hill, I was coming from the south. Somebody that came over the hill from the north and thought they'd have ran right in. That's scary. Right. And then I said, Mike, you got to realize from the crossings to Waiwiga, that stretch of 110 before it joins 22 and 54, it's all milk trucks and it's all cheese trucks. There's so much going in and out of there. They don't realize that, I'm sure. And he said, so he went on and went through a lot of things with me. He said right now they came up with 185,000 approximately they're looking at to do some work in November on 161 and 110. Now, I don't know how much you can do with it, but I said, even if you can do some 500-foot strips, remember we said that's all they had money for at one point, something. But he said, we're looking at, we're going to do something this year. He said, then he said, I've applied for stimulus money. And he said, if we get that, we're going to do something in 2023 on 110. He said, if we don't get that, we put it back, it's in the budget to get done in 2025. And we're looking at $8 million put into that. So at least there's daylight in the tunnel where before we had nothing. It wasn't even in the plan. It was taken out of the plan, right?
They had it in the plan, they took it out.
Right. So anyway, where this comes from, I don't know. But he said, if you get some stimulus, he says, I'm planning on jumping in there in 2023 if we get that 300 million stimulus that they're asking for. And he said, your area has not got a lot of money, so I think we will get some money for that area. Down deep, I'm saying to myself, I got to write a letter to Rebecca Burkholz and to Mike for even looking into this. Right. And they think Casey's a great, great guy. They worked with him in John County. So I think there's light in the tunnel, maybe. And I said to him, I'm outspoken, that I said, Kevin Peterson don't even respond to us. I said, our representatives don't know that for us. And we're really concerned about somebody getting killed driving down the middle of the road at 110. And that's what we hear from people. That's what they do to get around all those bad spots. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Okay, Casey, we can move on. Any other comments?
No, I don't. Not for that. No.
So I really feel my trip was worthwhile because I heard something back. Moving on the agenda, we have review and approve 2021 draft budget, which Casey just presented.
So, yeah, we talked about the capital improvement projects, which are the jobs we're gonna do next year. One thing that we like to also talk about is how we're going to fund our administration, and what we're talking about for how we're projecting revenue from towns, revenue from state, to keep this department running. If you look at it, we're like a great big ship. We're an enterprise department. We basically are separate from all other departments, and we have to run our department like a business. And so we depend on work from townships and the state and reimbursements to do so. Yes, one of them is county tax levy, but we have to, whatever we spend, we have to recover. And so Chris runs the expenses on radios, to the expenses on GPS equipment, to expenses on bituminous account, our sand account, our winter maintenance, winter sand account. And she made a few adjustments that you had not seen. They're very, very minor, but we've already went through this once before, and I'm gonna let Chris point out what she made changes on so that you have the updated.
So the first one that Sue's got up here is the administrative cost one. And the change there that I did was in the line where towards the bottom under revenue with the towns, villages, cities, records and reports, that $17,000 there, I had that combined with the $2,800, so it's at $19,000 there. But someone had asked what that 2% that we added to towns invoices this year generated so far to date, and it was the 17,000. We are just getting started with town work, so I expect that to pick up and be a promising figure as we move forward. Another thing that I noticed too is if you look at the 2018 and 2019 actual costs on the top line on highway administration, that jumped a bit, and it's mostly due to Foreman and Casey charging more time to that for doing their paperwork and administrative type activities. It also includes some construction in progress expenses from building this building and a credit for one of our smart boards that we moved into a capital purchase. So that it looks a little weird on the paperwork, but it made sense once I looked at what consisted of that change. I think that was the only thing I changed on that one.
One of the things I kind of want to point out, which this sheet shows it very well, is our total administrative costs always show loss, loss, loss. Well, we cost pull it in the following year, we need to recoup it. So how were we recouping our administration deficit in the past? We were taking it out of our road budget. It was coming right. We were saying, all right, we have to cover this somehow. So all of these losses over all these years were being pulled out of what we would typically invest in potholes, wedging, shoulder repairs, mowing. And so most all the other counties in the state of Wisconsin have an administrative fee on their invoices to towns. And we decided to make that 2%. We currently charge the state rate at 4.65%. Or 4.56. So that shows what we lost. And now the towns, this will be our first year, we can potentially recover them losses by up here. And the reason we're in a deficit here in the year 2020 yet is because I asked our department to schedule all of our county work up front, coming right out of spring, and then do the town work later, whereas before we were doing all the town work and stuff. So we're gonna catch up, in my opinion, pretty quick. Just last week, we received a $300,000 job from the town of Larrabee. We received a $250,000 job from Matson. So these townships are still looking at where they sit financially here in the middle of the summer and coming to us as their service provider and hiring us for hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're getting more work orders in that we're kind of snapping our lid a little bit and saying, wait a minute, in 3 months, it's going to be snowing. We can't take on it all, which is also a reflection on let's hold off on Highway I, even though we can't pave it. Let's just focus on town work here this fall. So moving stuff around, it's like a business.
The next one is the Transportation Services Fund. I've made no change on there from what we presented earlier. The focus mostly was on the construction projects, which we just spent some time on. So that would not change from what we had proposed before. Questions on that, or this is that one? And then this was the proposed equipment purchases for the next few years, and there's no change on that one from what we had discussed.
Right, so I kind of scared people when I projected the $1.5 million equipment purchase for next year. And they said, if you want to do it, you got to take it from your capital projects. Because there just is no more available money. And I even had an email from our finance director that said, do you, Casey, want to consider the discussions with your highway committee on potentially in the future borrowing for some of your capital projects? And I said, well, right now we have more time than money. I'm just putting that out there. We have more time than money as a department. And the reason I say that is because the from 2014 to 2020, we were paying our employees $1 million more, our non-salary employees. So from 2014 to 2020, we're paying our employees $1 million more than we were 6 years ago. When you give wage increases and the inflation of capital or of stuff goes, what's happening is you're having increase in wages year after year. We have the same amount of staff, but where does that cost go to pay for the increase in wages? They aren't increasing our budget at state, town, or county level. What's happening is we're doing less and less road projects. We're stealing money from our road projects to pay for the cost of having employees. And at some point that rubber band's gonna snap because we're not gonna be able to do anything, and we have more I guess more time and money. Our guys are going to be at work, but I have no money to have them do anything. That's the trend that we're taking. And so we looked at the options last year with the previous highway committee, and that maybe we need to downsize. What does downsizing mean? As a department, we have 70 employees. We're staffed at a level to plow snow on our winter snow plowing. That's why we have 70 people. And if I wanted to cut, potentially not do construction anymore, or not, or to be able to afford that line breaking, I would have to cut maybe 5 plow routes, and they aren't coming from the state, and they aren't coming from the county system. I'm going to have to just go and contact 5 of our townships and say, we aren't going to buy trucks for you anymore, and we're not going to have staff for you anymore. And that's a cost savings to us as a county. But then you also see the reversal side of that when you've got Harrison and Scandinavia and Iola all meeting here saying, we need you to plow snow for us. And I was like, can't afford it. I can't buy 5 more trucks. I can't buy 5 more people. There's no budget to cover that. So it's kind of goofy on that discussion. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that with you guys or get feedback.
Just thinking before COVID hit, how competitive it was to hire people. If you wanted skilled operators, they weren't easy to get. And we don't want to just hire anybody off the street and put them in this expensive equipment and here you go. So I don't know if it'll go back to that or not. I don't. But we just, the labor thing is until things change and there's a surplus of labor again, we're kind of stuck with what we've got as far as help. And just being able to hire qualified people is a little bit harder than you think. You can get hire somebody to go sort potatoes over off the field in the fall, yeah, but to drive a snowplow truck and not take out half the mailboxes, that's a different story.
I'm seeing a significant, like every industry is, it's no different. Our baby boomer generation is leaving the workforce, and there's a lot of skill leaving. And who's coming up through the ranks? we don't have the farmer kids. We do not have those kids that go out and play on their bikes in puddles all the time. I'm getting YouTubers and the X generation to shop from right now. So it all will work its way out. We'll be fine, but the pool isn't there. If I could get approval to move forward with what we have, because we're going to give this to Heidi.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the 2021 draft budget.
I will make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jim Nygaard, second by Lee Mock. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I couldn't hear those things.
Are you still with us, Fred?
Yep,
Okay,
And Dick,
I had it on mute, so you didn't hear me.
okay, very good.
and Dick too?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, review and approve 5-year capital improvement projects.
All right, now part of my job is not just to look at next year, it's to look into the next 5 years so we can start projecting trends within the, our capital improvements. And then the other portions of the courthouse can look at their capital projects, whether it's building replacements or sheriff's department squads. That's kind of why we do the 5-year capital, see if the county as a whole is gonna go broke, and then we have to come up with a happy medium. So what I like to show to you is busy. It kind of shows, and you don't bring this one out right now, but this big sheet right here is for you to take home and reference. But it's typically these sheets that it's easier to understand. So Sue, if you could bring up these sheets. Let's go to the year 2022. So in the year 2022, my projects are not where we're going to talk about each one of them. We're going to talk about financially where we sit as a budget and where our county tax levies are. So in the column where it says county levy, we're looking at $4.6 million of what we're projecting. Right below it, it says net county costs of 4.875. So we're within $200,000 plus or minus of our proposed capital projects, and we give that to our finance department, and then they start projecting into the future and getting trends on borrowing or not borrowing, or should the sheriff's department be looking at a building replacement, should highway be looking at a roof replacement, stuff like that. So a lot of it has to do on this project with, I guess, a big part of 2022 is replacing the bridges on Double B, which you're familiar with that one, Double B Bridge. It's kind of right by Micklejohn Road and Highway B north of Royalton. That bridge has been in the works to get replaced. So in the year 2022, that one's getting there. And then also in the year 2022, right in Scandinavia, the bridge that goes west on B is getting replaced. Both of them were replacing kind. They went through that DOT replacing kind program, and these are the dollars that are allotted. So we pay for 20% of them. So in a roundabout way, $200,000 worth of projects that usually my department performs and work is going for replacing bridges. County Highway E from Constance Road to Ogdensburg is a project. It fell underneath the high-risk rural roads. It's one of the highest crash roads between Wapaka and Ogdensburg in northeast Wisconsin's 18 counties in our district. And we were awarded funding to do rumble strips and chevrons and safety related items. And so that is required to have an engineering firm design all of that. But when I go ahead and look at that project, I just don't want to grind rumble strips in old pavement. I want to improve the pavement, make it look nice, and then go ahead and grind the rumble strips in. So following into the year 2023 project, our department on County Highway E, if you just flip to 2023, on Highway E, the one project on top is the safety improvement project. That one would follow our department replacing the pavement, that 6.8 miles for $860,000. But I need to incorporate that into an engineer's design, because the state says if we're going to put money towards anything, we need to have a design with quantities for competitive bidding, and so it has to be designed. Our cost for that design on Highway E is only $2,481. Next project I have on Highway 22, or in the year 22, is County Highway N. We're gonna put the second mat of asphalt where the crews are working right now from Clark Street all the way to County Highway O. That's $400,000. It gives it the road a year to, it gives the road actually 2 years to move and settle and do its fluctuating. It also gives us an opportunity to truck across the binder mat of asphalt we're gonna place this fall without wrecking the surface, because there's gonna be quite a bit of our truck traffic going down there to build the next sections. Our crews in the year 22, our construction crews, are going to be rebuilding Highway N from O to T. That's been in the works for a while. Right of way is being acquired this year. It's been staked and designed. And then in the year 2022, we're looking at the future and working its way down that whole corridor all the way to 45. And so I have to have plans to do that, and which generates the quantities and finding out what it's going to take to build it. And so I need to have an engineering firm design the next section of Highway N. And I figured, because they're going to be out there anyway, just take it to 45 and be done with the whole design, even though we can't afford to, we don't have enough time to build almost 4.1 miles, 4.2 miles in a year. At least the design portion's done. We end up shelving that set of plans for a year. The next one is County Highway O from Double O to Island Road. This makes me nervous in that if you, Joe and Lee, if you recall, and Dick Rowan, you recall, remember the condition of Highway O and Double O, and I came in this time of year and said, we need to pulverize and repave it. Let's do it now or before snow plowing season, and we did it. Well, them two roads have not gotten their second mat of asphalt yet. And now here, in order to afford stuff next year, I pushed these second mats of asphalt off till 2022. That's a huge concern to myself, in that we only got that much pavement when we should be having 4 inches. So in a roundabout way, Joe, maybe we need to ask finance if we could do something potentially next year to cap them roads to finish them before we start letting that binder mat get cracked and wrecked. Because once it starts cracking, then the reflective cracking will come up through that surface mat. So that's just a discussion to have with finance committee, or trying to get approval for 2021 to fit it in. But right now I had to move it down the line because it just ain't enough money. The next one is Highway O. I want to replace the culverts from Mountain Lake Road to Highway N a year in advance. That road's shot. And then the next one is Double O, replacing the culverts and ditching. It'd be in front of Tommy Anderson's farm. That road's shot. So I need to start doing some work out there with our crews. And then the last one I have is putting that second mat on that I just talked about for 1.3 miles. So in a roundabout way, what I don't like about the 2022 year plan is I've pushed roads out that don't have their second mat on, and that's Highway O for 1.3 miles and Double O for 1.3 miles. So that's that project. 2023 is a lot of E's and N's and O's, and one big project that we have here in the year 2023, I think Supervisor Nygaard, you want to look at more on Q. And so that's when I have projected pretty much $750,000 to do from Bartell Road down south to US Highway 10. No design, our crews just self-perform that work. Make a 3-way stop sign by Sheridan versus trying to redesign that curve and have it flow.
I think that's a good cost savings there, like you mentioned before. That railroad track to the north, it's
You ain't gonna move it.
nope. And so there's no need to make it a 55-mile-an-hour corner. But now, like the portion that used to be Highway 10 with the concrete underneath, what kind of headaches does that bring you?
Usually when you have broken up concrete and you cover it with pavement, it's like Highway 54. A year after you overlay it, it breaks up. And so I don't care to do that. I would like to remove that concrete.
Sure.
Ideally, in an ideal situation, and supplement it with a gravel subbase.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. But that section is probably only a third of a mile.
It's short.
Yeah, and with the Phelps pit being right across the road, there's that potential, we could haul it in there, they crush it, and we get the material back to put back out on the road. We just need a staging point.
Sure. You know, Q doesn't get that much traffic, but it is a shortcut for trucks. So that's what I see on that road. That's probably what contributed to.
Pavement shop, we gotta do something.
Yep.
The next project, I know Lee up in the Marion area, County Highway S from Northview Avenue to US 45. That was a project that has a sunset date, and we received LRIP funding from the state. So we're gonna replace the pavement from the Marion Sale Barn in front of the Marion Plywood, all the way to where you turn to go into central Wisconsin veneer. We're not gonna go past the St. John's Lutheran Church at this time. That is in good enough condition that that'll be a separate project. Plus there's a whole ball of monkeys underneath that road with what the city of Marion wants to do with their storm sewer, a big cross culvert pipe, and utility lines. So we need to focus on just the pavement from basically the girls softball diamond in Marion and go east all the way to past Donnie Coles and past the sale barn. So that one's getting done in 2023. And then if you notice the very last one is Highway Z. That's just, I could throw a baseball that far, but that road is just a little stub that goes off 49. I want to replace the culverts on that one, and then also on double M and do some ditching going past the Iowa Scandinavia ski hill a year in advance, get the culverts and ditches done a year ahead so they can move around. So when we come in now, 2024, we can replace the pavement on those jobs, all staying within our budget of between 4.5 and $5 million. But when I get to the year 2024, we have net county costs out of county levy at 4.9. When you throw administration into it, it brings it above to 5.2 million. Because we charge ourselves the 4.56% on every invoice to cover our admin costs. My wages, Greg's wages, Sue's wages, your wages. So in the year 2024, you're going to see pavement get replaced more kind of on the west part of the county on double M. And one thing that we've got going on there is we applied for state reimbursement on Highway W from Reedfield up to New London. That has to have, again, it's going to get let out in 2025, so I have to have it designed and engineered so that it creates quantities and which creates costs so we can pay for it and bid it out. So Highway W is going to get some engineering done down there. I put $300,000 in pavement replacement. Lee from in front of the Marion Body Works, as the city of Marion is looking at doing a project. And if they're going to dig down storm sewer and water in our county highway, that's good to put it in binder mat for a year and let it shift and do all of its funky things and then top it the following year. So I got 300,000 in there. Again, Graft Engineering is the engineer for the city of Marion, and they're right now scoping what the city wants to do under the road for replacements, but a lot of their water and sewer is 1960s era stuff, and it's blowing up on them and breaking, and they're getting a lot of issues. And so they want to do a joint project with us. One of these 2023 or 2024 projects, when the time comes, might get shifted so that we can have our crews come in and rebuild in front of the Marion Body Works like we did on Division Street going through New London by Hillshire Farm. So, and then it's 2025 in our 5-year cap. 21, 22, yeah. Then I gotta go 2025, and I'm required to meet with you on all these. 2025 is, we're starting to wind down with paving on Highway N. We're done out there, and we're moving into the next phase of what I think is what needs to be reconstructed versus pulverized and repaved. And that's some of these roads way down here on Highway A, south of our highway shop. So we'll be moving down in that neck of the woods. Previous highway supervisor, Bill Jolney, was for it when I first started here. He was pushing me for it, but we had other roads that were in worse condition. And then I'm looking at replacing asphalt pavement on Highway T, going north and south of State Highway 22. I'm looking at redoing the road on Highway G between Asen Road and Moen Road.
Yeah.
And that one's to the point where the crown in the road is tipped so bad that it may get pushed up, it may get moved ahead of the year 2025. I think the Margie, the log trucks, they claim now that when they go down the road, the log trucks are almost tipping over because they are top heavy and the crown in the road is so bad that might get moved up, but I'm not moving it up into the year 2021, I guess. And then we're conducting that road down on Highway W. We're sticking 1.9 million into it, but it's also paving 4.2 miles of road. I'm just taking all our money and I have to go there because the state then is going to be reimbursing us 1.5 million of it. So our costs for that 4.2 miles is only $307,000. $307,000. It'd be stupid for us to not get that money. So.
Well, you're doing good. You're making the programs work for you as much as you can.
Trying to. Yeah. What I can't do is take a project that has state reimbursement with a deadline sunset and move it anymore. No, we have to do them roads because we've committed to it.
Wow.
All good money, we gotta get it all.
Yeah. The next opportunity, I believe, coming out is the state bridge replacement application. And the bridge, when it comes out, if the feds and the state have the funding to say, here's another bridge reimbursement project, an 80-20 cost share would be to replace the bridge right in front of the Manimal Rodeo grounds. That one's shot. That would be my next bridge to apply for. Yeah, we just cut the rebar out of the bridge deck so it would stop popping holes in people's tires. Seriously, that's how bad they are.
Yeah.
So,
You need an approval on this?
yeah, because it's going to go to finance for 5-year capital improvement projects to finance committee next week.
Also moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Lee Marks, second by Jim Nygaard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now you want to go into personnel, employee update, resignations, retirements, recruitment?
Yeah, agenda item number 7 is personnel. One thing is the COVID era we live in. We do have employees that were contacts of positive cases that are not at work. And so they are currently gone. Another thing that we're looking at, personnel time-wise, COVID-related wise, they all tie together, is we projected somewhere, Sue, 20 to 25 of our employees have kids. A lot of them are going back to school. Some have to stay virtual. So being flexible with our work schedule so that if an employee needs to leave to watch their kid or help them through school, including myself, there's this COVID leave request, which says, now this was sent out to all departments and it was approved way back in March, but now it's becoming a reality because some are going back to school, and that if an employee needs to stay home because their kid cannot go to that building to conduct school, our employees can get up to 12 weeks approved to stay home and be compensated through the federal COVID grant at 2/3 of their wages. And so if I have a Wednesday that my wife can't get off, or I have no one to watch my kid, but yet I need to do virtual and help my kid at home. Right now he can't read, he's 5. I have that option to use this leave request form at 2/3 of the wages. We have 20 to 25 of our employees in that scenario. Yes, of that, maybe half of them, their kids can watch themselves and train themselves and do that. But that's something I wanted to bring up to Highway Committee. Going into a snowplow season, going into a mega blizzard, I need them people at work, let alone their families need them at home too. So that's, I can't just go and tell every employee we're not going to be flexible with you. So this is coming up.
I think this is going to get a lot bigger than you realize, just so you're all aware.
We're going
to,
we're going to not extend, but typically the end of October, our 10-hour days we're done. And I don't know, Sue, can you bring up the calendar in the bottom right corner, just kind of float it into November? Just so that we can kind of see where the time clock is, left click on it, double click on the time.
Sure.
No, to the left of the time. So if you can go to November by hitting the down arrow, it kind of gives us a reference. And maybe you can't see this at home, Dick, but the gun season, or what I call the Thanksgiving holiday, I call it gun season, is it starts the 21st. And so I'm going to tell our employees, with your approval or any feedback, that we're going to start our 8-hour days on Sunday, November 22nd. So we're going to take 10-hour days up to that point. Why I want to do that is it maximizes the opportunity for them employees that can't come to work on Monday. Maybe I can work them on Friday instead. Or if something pops up where they can't work on Tuesday, they can take off Tuesday and work on Friday instead. But once you hit that Thanksgiving week, I need every one of our employees here every day of the weekday, because of the storms don't know to stop. It's not ice up on a Friday morning. And it is a mess trying to get people to work when they were told they didn't have to. So that's, I want to maximize it from the end of October to November 22nd, unless you guys have concerns on it. But I also want to be able to be flexible with our employees. And I know that our mechanics staff flex their time a little bit where they're not working Mondays. They can work Fridays. The reason they've been doing that is because the machinery is shut down and they have an opportunity to maintain it. But now we're doing the COVID thing. It just staying on 410s until that day makes sense to me. But beyond it, I don't want people here. I don't want to have this building vacant when it starts snowing on a Friday during the winter. So that's my employee updates. I have no resignations. I have no retirements. We are planning the October 12th fall training day. That's required for our department to do, but yet we don't want to meet in a big mob to keep the groups separate. So Sue and I and Chris on that other board have a layout of what we're mandatory and required to train our employees on, to include MSHA, refresher, hearing, fire safety. Them are all three mandatories for insurance reasons and HR reasons. HR likes to brief all of our employees, or at least do face-to-face time with them once a year. That's the time to do it. But we're not going to have that fall appreciation that we had in the past. Just don't want to get people together eating from all around the county like we did. So it might come back in the future, but we're going to avoid that for this fall. We'll appreciate them some other way, whether it's a letter or card or something that comes from our department with all of our highway department signatures on it, but we're not going to have the big feast.
Are we extending the 4 10-hour days longer this year, or is it just the normal? It's longer this year, right?
Longer, right?
Well, typically, we always ended at Halloween. Now we're going to move it up to the week before Thanksgiving. So we're going to extend it 3 more weeks.
And that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's good too. I farm, and so I watch these weather outlooks daily. So what's going on? We've had 2 wet falls in a row, but now that there's a La Nina going on in the Pacific Ocean where the surface waters are cooling, and what we're seeing now is typical of that being, we've got dry weather here, it kind of goes together. So looks like we might have a little bit warmer, drier fall if this pattern holds true. So
that's good for paying. It's not good for equipment operating, but that is what it is. We don't control it.
right.
Okay. And then the last thing I've got is Lee and I are on the Greenways Commission. They've been meeting regularly on bicycle pedestrian stuff. So that meeting took place this last Wednesday night. We did approve 2 applications. One was for a trail improvement in the Iola area at the Norski Ski Club, or that group is putting in a trail for the potential, they call it joring. I think it's skiing and then you shoot. So that fund was set up by the county board. I'm on that with you. So that one got approved to put a walking trail in there. It doesn't come out of our budget, but I'm on the committee. And then the next one is
That's at the ski hill.
it's separate. There's the ski hill and then there's the horse. No, winter sports area, yeah, not horseshoeing, it's snowshoeing. That's a whole nother separate thing. So it's winter non-motorized sports. And they figure that the joring, which is the ski and then shoot, that is going to be one of the few courses in the state of Wisconsin. Right now, there's a big one in Madison and another one by the big marsh. What's the big marsh south of us? So somewhere down in there, they have one. And now they're going to put one in Wapaka County, which is supposed to be an attractant. So that one, and then the other one was the town of Caledonia petitioned for a trail reimbursement to go around their school district. So that was built by our department this summer. The town of Caledonia. That's Reedfield. Yep. So Reedfield petitioned for reimbursement, and they were awarded it. I think their reimbursement was $10,500 because they can be reimbursed a quarter of what the overall project costs are. Up in Iola, that snowshoeing trail was reimbursable for, I think they got $2,750, but that's interesting stuff. You'll hear about it from Ryan, because Ryan's the administrator of it, but pretty neat. Anything else that you guys can think of for personnel that I'm not tracking?
Does East Central communicate with your department at all on availability of some programs or?
I just met with Scott Conkle at the Griffin Pit for reclamation of the Griffin Pit to get his approval. So he put a public notice out last week, Tuesday, that says, yep, there is a reclamation plan. But as far as interacting one-on-one and going to meetings like they used to, this last year's been pretty quiet. Yeah, I would say no, they're not reaching out to us like they did years ago. Just haven't had that. Yeah. So that's done with that agenda item. That moves us into the last of the last, and that's the Highway Commissioner's report. The Highway Commissioner's report is a summary of where we sit on construction projects. Oh, here it is. So in the Commissioner's report, I think Sue has been not volunteering, she's been being paid for. She's been working for the Department of Health and Human Services, delivering meals on Tuesday. Their last one is coming up here on August 25th. So I don't know why they're going to keep delivering meals, but they don't need you.
They probably do, it's just that's all.
That's all they have funding.
You've allowed them to do it.
That's all we committed to. So they might repetition us to take our employees to help deliver meals for people at home. So that's what we might get an update on that. We have the Special Finance Committee August 26th, where they're now going to get our full-blown capital projects and administration budget for next year and the 5-year. August 27th is the last day for all of our summer kids. I gotta could you go and grab that t-shirt out of my desk in that left drawer? We had 7, we started with 8 and we're ending with 7 seasonal employees. Most of them are college kids. They all did an excellent job. We are going to keep Bryce Opperman on until the end of September, and he is going to then go and pursue getting his CDL. He wants a job with the highway department, so he's trying to go that. I don't hang the carrot in front of him. I tell him you need to be the best candidate when we post the position at the top of the time. So that's taken place. And then Tom, there's a guy named Tom. He's from Hortonville or Greenville. He is a school bus driver for the Hortonville School Bus District, and he says, I'm not going back. So he's going to stay with us until the end of September, which then they can help flag during our paving projects. But the other ones are all leaving here. Usually I buy them a meal or do something, eat pizza. This year we decided to go with, was it $10 t-shirts? $10 t-shirts. I asked them what their favorite color was, and they all kind of chose blue. We put the Wapaka County symbol on it, and then our accountant, our new Amy, she said the road to success is always under construction. So we made t-shirts just for them, and we're giving that. I should give that to Tanya. Very nice. But that's what they got as a thank you for working here. Maybe it'll stem another college student that, down in Platteville or wherever they're going to say, maybe I want to work for Catholic County. We have good candidates. So that's what I had for that. Human Resources Committee, no updates other than masks are mandatory. Do you see a whole lot of us wearing our masks when we don't have the public coming in? No, I'll be honest with you. I feel comfortable working around my staff all the time. I don't wear this mask all day long, but I do when we have these types of meetings.
There was 9 new cases from yesterday to today.
Yeah.
It's there. And the research on it now is saying that the 10 to 18-year-olds are the ones that don't show any sign of it and are the biggest carriers.
Yeah.
All you can do is do what you're doing.
Our Traffic Safety Committee is going to be meeting next week, Thursday at 2 o'clock. So that's where we bring in one employee that's an equipment operator from each outlying shop. We sit around, we go through all of the incidents and gas hits and electrical conflicts and all of that stuff, backing into vehicles and hitting poles. And that committee says, what do we need more training on? And so one of the topics this year was that costs us the most money continues to be slips, trips, and falls. We just have a lot of insurance claims from people going up the equipment, down the equipment, and tearing their shoulder or ripping something or slipping on the ice during the winter. But slips, trips, and falls, we need to be pounding that into our employees as far as annual trainings and stuff. So one thing is the toolbox talks we've been doing monthly have been, I think, helping a lot to keep the safety mentality in the back of our minds. Chip sealing, we only had one claim this year from a little chip hitting a window on a car, and they put in a claim against the brown truck, and we don't have any brown trucks. So I think we made it this year with no chip sealing complaints, but them chips are little and they fall out of the tailgates of the trucks, and our staff, I think, has done a good job with buttoning up them trucks. Highway department activities. In our shop, we're replacing the dump box on one of our single axles. Our new capital trucks, 1175 and 76, are under the knife getting rebuilt. That's pretty neat to see. In our field operations, we're conducting that performance-based maintenance crack filling job out on 54. It's going really smooth. We did integrate a dust control system on the router to try to keep the respiratory whole deal to a minimum. Well, then now there's a collection underneath it that's kind of getting worn out. So we're frustrated at that. Had to have some training with our employees that they're dragging that dust control system on the pavement, which training goes back to using a new tool the right way. And lots of municipal work flying in. Accounting wise, this 5-year capital thing is a huge load off my plate and Chris's plate as far as tying us up. Administration and engineering, Kyle is currently quarantining. He's not here, so we don't have him around us right now. But when he comes back, he's going to start collecting topography for our 2021 projects and getting them ready for next year's projects. Construction projects, I kind of beat on all of them. It's basically B's, I's, N's, and O's. Our work schedule now is going to go until November 23rd, which is a Monday. I always have to say the Sunday before because that's the payment period. And our O'Brien wetland site now got mowed for the second time. So that's good. Do we want to go through anything more than that, Joel? Like where we sit financially and all that? We have it available if we want to.
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Good. It's just another 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're able to, we're getting long-winded here. So we have them up on the board. I kind of like standing here. Sue, if you could bring up where we sit financially on our construction projects. And I don't need to talk about maintenance a whole lot. I just want to talk about construction. So once you share this screen with Dick and Fred and it's ready to go,
You should see.
You can see it, Dick?
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
Fred can too.
So what you're seeing is a reflection on the bottom of the first project is Highway Q and the last one's Highway B with a subtotal of our budget was $5.9 million this year for capital. Again, that's a reflection of last year not finishing I, so we took some of that non-translapsing funds and did it this year. We were able to self-perform the work. So we're capable of doing 5.9 million in a year. That's where we got more time than money for the upcoming years. We've spent about 81% of our budget at this point. The big one I'm looking at is County Highway N. All right, so County Highway N from Clark Street to O. Right now we have spent 38% of our budget. We have $843,000 remaining on that. Of that 843,000, I need to have $500,000 or 500,000 available for paving and shouldering and painting this fall. And so that lets me backwards plan to my construction crew that they have $343,000 available to finish it all the way to O, which then I look at each day what it's costing our department. And when we got a full fleet of gravel trucks hauling, we're spending about $30,000 a day on that job when we're hauling gravel. If it's just the construction crew, we're spending about $10,000 a day on that project. So that leaves me to how much time does the construction crew have until we're out of money. And that is looking to be the week of September 28th, knock on wood. So it's September 28th, our construction crew should be done. And the paving crew then is able to move in with the $500,000 budget to get that first layer of asphalt down. That's the one I'm concerned about. Or, you know, that's one I'm watching the most. We're minimizing our Fridays to keep the overtime down. We are going to have this Friday not doing the sand hauling and the digging out the subgrade of the road. We're going to be seeding and mulching on a Friday. That's more just hand work. You don't need all of the crews and fuel and whatnot. So that's the one we're looking at. Ultimately, we have $1.1 million remaining in our overall schedule. I'm still directing the crews to move forward with paving Highway Q in front of the Fulks pit. That's shot. It needs to get replaced where the snow plows are going to go through it. And then up here on our maintenance budget, we have $1.8 million remaining in our maintenance. That's a healthy amount. And finance does have the option to take some of these dollars and transfer them into our capital projects or capital and put them into maintenance. We don't like to do that. We like to plan a perfect world, but in a roundabout way, we need to have, what did I say, $400,000 available in maintenance in order to plow snow in October, November, and December. October is typically the ice events on our county trunk system. And in our winter maintenance, we have a healthy budget of $516,000 remaining. If Kim's El Nino is correct,
I hope so.
we'll spend it on construction. So
You gotta talk to the weatherman here. He'll die on the snowfall.
I didn't ask him. He was there Wednesday, but I didn't ask him yet. Next Wednesday, I'll ask.
routine winter maintenance breakout, this sheet. So this sheet here is kind of a breakout of that top bar. If you don't have it, that's,
We do. We just gotta get it up.
I think, 3 columns. So now this is a breakout of our maintenance budget and where we've been spending our dollars. Right now, we have 41% of our budget remaining. Most of it spent for snow plowing. With the town work that we've got, it's keeping our men and equipment off of our budget coming into this fall. So I feel pretty confident where we sit, where our maintenance budget is. I want to do some wedging on our county truck system, which comes out of maintenance versus capital. So I've given Greg Floor the green light to do some asphalt wedging on our county trunk system to Band-Aid some of these roads and keep them together until we redo them. Seal coating projects all came in. We seal coated. Do you have a summary of seal coating? Or if not, that's,
I don't, but
it's not on this one, is it?
the total,
The total for seal coating.
right here. It's the second one, except I just ran another one, it's at like 341.
So
So
Yeah.
Dan just put all the stuff in, so this actually is about 341.
That's 295.
seal coating or chip sealing our roads is a huge way to preserve the pavement life with just putting oil and chips on it. And so
But you get like an extra 5 or 10 years out of it.
you get about 8 before you start need to do something with it. So this year in particular, we budgeted almost $400,000. We're looking at coming in at a little under budget right now, according to what I'm seeing, that we received all our invoices from MIGS and from our chip sealing supplier. But I feel confident that we're doing all right there too. But that was a huge fall expense that just got completed, and all them roads should be painted now. If you've been on a chip sealing job, we should have them all painted. That was kind of a concern. All right. The next one I've got for you is where we sit with spending the towns and municipalities that spend money with us. I like to break out each town on where we sit. Again, this year, we're prioritizing our county work first. So a lot of the town work has not come in yet. And all we're doing is comparing last year to this year. Basically, it's the amount of revenue we're generating from these towns, work we're performing, which includes the invoices for material. So it's just not labor, it's equipment, it's all the bills we send and we tally up. And right now, with those service agreements, we're $146,000 less than we were last year at this time, but we didn't perform the work yet, so it's expected to be down a little bit. And snow plowing is a big one. When there's less snow to plow, we perform less work. And then if you scroll down to those municipalities that do not have service agreements with us, but yet we still perform work for, we're down about $142,000. But a lot of the invoices haven't been billed yet that are reflected here. We've been performing a lot of work. For Farmington, they just hired us for a big job. We end up doing some wedging for the city of Wapaka, asphalt wedging, and just as a reflection of this, the town of Larrabee and Matson just gave us $500,000 worth of stuff we weren't expecting. If you can look at, scroll back to this column here, what we do is we take, for every lane mile that we snowplow, we say we want to be compensated $1,000 worth of revenue. That gives us a projection of, our budget 40, I'll let you touch it.
So like Bear Creek has 40.26 miles.
Yeah, so it could, right now we're looking at, when we plow for the towns, we plow 575.2 miles. Right now, today, we've collected 1.5, 1.6 million. So we've already over recovered our minimum. So we're not by no means even scared. And then when we go to our non-service agreement customers, we're not even projecting to do work for them. So anything that we get in revenue from those towns is all a bonus. And that's what's keeping us afloat is those non-service agreement summer work customers where I don't have to buy a plow truck for them. So a huge asset. So thank you, towns. The next thing we can look at is where we're running for machinery revenue. If you've got that one. So when you have a mild snow plowing season and you have equipment that breaks down, you are not generating a profit. If you're in the business of plowing snow, you need to plow snow to make money. Well, this year, compared to last year, we're overall down $940,000 in equipment revenue. A lot of it is not using our snow plows on the state system, the county system, and the town system. So, in a roundabout way, we are at the mercy of Mother Nature. I can tell you right now that our crews are busier than hell during the summer months, except we're working a lot less Fridays because we're trying to minimize the contacts between people, and therefore the equipment's not being charged out as much as it was last year at this time, because we're just trying to minimize the amount of time we're working. So it's a reflection in generating the equipment revenue. We're spending less time. So that's it for that report. That kind of sums up, and this is a busy meeting, I know that, but it kind of sums up where we're sitting at for,
But that less amount of money we're generating from not using equipment of $940,000. How is that gonna affect us?
it'll directly affect how much money we can spend on equipment in the next year. Yep.
So that's where we get bought.
Yep, and that's why I took $600,000 out of my capital projects to cover the cost of the paver, because we're seeing a reduction in revenue on equipment use this year, which is cost pool and charge back up next year.
The paver is 27 years old.
The paver is 27 years old, yeah.
But that 900,000 is a gross number, correct? Not on the rental rate or what your charge out rate? So
That's revenue over expenses.
Oh, it is.
Last year at this
Revenue over
time, I
expenses.
generated $927,000 more in revenue on our equipment than I did this year.
Okay.
But for
So you're
instance,
gonna lose that depreciation?
That's
depreciation will still be in there, because when we own the truck, it depreciates automatically regardless. Yeah, and so when we depreciate all of our 400 pieces of equipment annually, then it, after their useful life, they're depreciated out. So it's not wise to keep a lot of old equipment,
Like we
because
did.
you lose depreciation, you use that dollar amount. It's not money, but it's money, and that's what we tend to use to buy equipment. Depreciation and profit. If I were to go out and smash up a plow truck now and wreck a $300,000 piece of equipment, that's a reflection on an expense to that piece of equipment, which then we lose it in revenue. Profit over expense. We are a business self-performing. It's goofy, but it's all right. It's fun.
Yeah.
Anything else? Our next meeting, September 3rd.
Yeah, then I'm gonna take a week off after that. So I don't know who I asked permission to take vacation
I
from.
heard there's a bear gonna.
There's a bear gonna get shot, yeah.
All right.
You need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Motion from Lee Muck, second from Fred Zog, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I have one comment. I wanna,
Bye, thank you.
Over and out.
Bye now.
Thank you.
I wanna thank the committee.
Have a good one, fellas.
Hey,
Yeah, hang in there, guys.
Here, Fred.
Yeah.
Budget. I think would be a good thing for at least one officer